session with Mrs. Moore's advisees and mine. And we're actually doing this because it's probably something that we've needed to do for a while. And now the online environment is actually forcing us to do that. So we are gonna record this session, and we're just going to run through some basics about advising for pre-vet students specifically. And so I know that you guys are probably in different stages of your academic career right now, so that some of this may be a repeat, but we want to make sure to capture it for the recording. All right. And so if you guys do have questions, should we go to the chat with those, Kate? Do you think that's the best way to do that? Okay. Okay. You have a screaming kid behind you, don't you? Okay. That's why you're not turning your sound on. I got it. Okay. We're fine. Okay. So if you guys have questions, just drop them in the chat. And between Kate and I, we're going to keep an eye on both of those. And so we kind of have a little bit of a script and an agenda to get done. So without further ado, we will go ahead and get started. And so first of all, welcome to advising for the fall semester. We know that this semester is absolutely completely different and probably not what you want to do. And we apologize from the bottom of our hearts for that. It's not what we want either. Like we're effective. We love our jobs when we can be with people and in front of classrooms. And it's kind of killing our souls, honestly, at this point. So if you guys are feeling that way, just realize that we're feeling that way too. But we're just going to try to make the best of a really bad situation and push forward to get through this. And so on that note, advising is coming up. So the registration date will begin the 26th. So Monday, the 26th. The mandatory advising session will be October 12th through the 23rd. So we've got 2 weeks coming up. And Kate and I have both already started advising because it's just a challenge to get all of you guys through in 2 weeks, in addition to doing our normal classwork stuff. So
yes.
So just keep some of those dates in mind. And if you guys have been through the registration process before, that's great. You know what to expect. If you haven't, if you're a freshman, here are just kind of our tips and tricks to make sure that you're successful with this registration process. First and foremost, watch your portal for your registration date. It usually will pop up about a week before registration actually starts. So around the 19th is when I assume that your registration dates will pop up on your portal. Once they do yourself a big favor, write it down, put it in several places, and then put it in your phone as an alarm, okay? And so the exact time or day and hour is to set your alarm for. And we've seen people be really successful with getting the classes that they want when they have all of their desired classes in their shopping cart. And when their alarm goes off, all they have to do is hit submit. And that gives you a greater chance of getting the classes that you really want to get into. The other thing that I will suggest as well is especially if you are a freshman or a sophomore, is there's a little bit more of a challenge with getting classes just because you're further down on the registration list. Okay, it'll get better when you get to being a junior and a senior. It's not going to be an issue. But for freshmen and sophomores, it's really important that you have 2 to 3 backup classes kind of in mind. So if you hit submit in your shopping cart when you can register and it pops up that class is full or isn't available, you have something to shift to really quickly. All right. Let's see here. Yep. And set several alarms for your registration time. So that's a really good way to kind of be successful. All right, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to walk through a couple of sheets that we all use for advising that you guys may or may not have seen. And so I will just, Kate and I very much advise similarly. And so what we actually both really like to use the degree progress report. And so the DPR, if you guys are not familiar with it, it is, let me put my fictitious student in here. Oh, come on. Of course. There we go. All right. So with our fictitious student, the DPR is going to be a link over here to the left-hand side. And so hopefully this looks familiar to you guys. And this person actually isn't enrolled in classes right now. But that DPR is really your contract with the university. And the reason that we advise off of it is because it is really the final say as far as if you graduate or not. And so as you start to make progress on classes and take classes and complete them or in progress, it's going to show up on the DPR. And so the way that it is organized is that there are 6 big categories here. And so these 6 big categories mean different things relative to your degree progress with the university. They are also going to have various colors associated with them over here. And so this person has already graduated. He's successfully in vet school at Western University. And so he has sufficed all of his requirements. And so all of his requirements here are green. However, if we didn't see him, or if he didn't have any, or have a requirement suffice, what you would actually see is this big red not satisfied button here. Or if he was enrolled in a class, it would be in progress. Okay, so the DPR works very much like a stoplight. It has red for the requirement has not been sufficed, yellow for in progress, and green for it has been completed. And so this first category of information here is really a lot of general information. So it tells you all about how many total units you need, what your GPAs are, etc. I personally don't spend a ton of time in this section with my students. So where I do spend a lot of time with my students is in the GE requirements here. So all of these requirements that are listed in this GE area are the same requirements that are on the GE planning sheet. And I think
I have that, Casey. When you pull it up.
Yeah, please do. I'll stop sharing so you can share. So that GE planning sheet is what everybody in the university has to suffice. It's mostly lower division classes. And so you guys have probably seen this before. If you've been in my office before, I've got it actually in a sheet protector and we write all over it. Okay, and so it is going to encompass all of the requirements that you need that we're going to target for the first 2 years. So the big 4, like English, or A1, A2, A3, and A4. So oral communication, written communication, critical thinking, math, and quantitative reasoning. Okay, and then it gets into the lab classes. So B1 and B2. And then it has things like history and poli-sci and the writing requirements. And then on the second page, it has the very specific areas with a variety of classes that you can choose from. And the whole idea here is that you take one class in each row. Okay. If you want to get a minor in one of those black arrows towards the top, maybe Kate can point to it.
Yep.
There you go. The diversity studies, ethics, justice, policy. Then you need to take a class from every single column and every row. We honestly, for pre-vet students, we advise against it. It's honestly a waste of time. if you are headed to vet school or even into a vet tech program, it won't help you. Lower division minors are not very helpful at all. So we just advise that you take one class for each row. Okay. And there's some cool stuff that actually double counts here between the GE planning sheet and our major. First and foremost, if Kate rolls back up in area A4 is mathematics and quantitative reasoning. We advise that you take Math 105, which is statistics. So that is a requirement for general education at the university level. It's also a requirement for our animal science major. The second double count that we can do here with the animal science major and GE is in area B1. And that is where you will either take, we will advise you to take like a chemistry class. So if it's been a while since you've had chemistry from high school, we're going to recommend you take Chem 107. If you are pretty comfortable with chemistry and you're a pre-vet major, we're going to push you right to Chem 111. And we'll have another discussion about chemistry here in just a few minutes. And then the third double count on this first page is area B2. Our animal science 101 and plant science 101 classes will count for B2 as well. And so you don't have to worry about taking extra classes.
No.
On the second sheet, we have one double count. It's in area D1 and it's Ag Business 101. So to suffice area D1, we're going to always recommend that you take Ag Business 101 because it counts for GE and it counts for our major. So this is the GE planning sheet. If most of it is associated with lower division classes that you'll take as a freshman and a sophomore. But the bottom part of the second page here is the upper division GE pathways. And so once you get into your junior and senior years, we're going to start talking about pathways. And this is where you need to take one class from each row within a specific column. And so we have some double counts here as well. So our students tend to take the food studies pathway because plant science 390 and 392 are taught in our college. So they're with professors that you actually know or kind of know, and they will count as electives in our animal science major. So that's food studies, global development studies, and sustainability. The cool part about all of this is it doesn't matter what pathway you are gonna do for your major, whether it's food studies, global development studies, or even something that doesn't have an ag class associated with it, like health and wellness. In order to suffice your pathway requirements, the whole bottom row here, the USD social sciences, we don't have to worry about because you guys will take the agriculture issues class or Agra 482 as a senior. And that will count in that row. And then you're done. You've sufficed your pathway, which is the last part of your GE material. So, do you guys have any quick questions about the GE stuff before we shift gears? And I'll have Kate share the major pathway form next. I mostly needed a coffee break, so cool. Awesome.
Okay, you just want ANSI advising?
Yeah, please.
Excellent.
Thank you. This is why it takes two of us.
It does.
I can't talk about this stuff and have the forms up. So you're a saving grace. Thank you.
It's a bad joke. You're like, there's no way.
All right. So with the major planning form, this is just for animal science. And so keep in mind, this is probably something that you saw during orientation, or if you're further along in your progress, you probably have this printed out and written all over, right? With lots of notes. And that's great. But to get a degree in animal science, In addition to the GE stuff that we just talked about, this is what you have to suffice. Now, it doesn't matter if you are headed towards the industry within animal science or if you're headed to vet school or have a pre-vet track. The animal science degree is all the same. It's one big degree, but what we can do as advisors is help advise you to take certain classes to go into industry or to go into vet school. And so we're going to concentrate our conversation today on vet school. And so with the first piece of, or the first table here, the lower division agriculture core, you're going to take this in addition to those GE classes we just talked about. So this is things like the Agro 180 class, which if you guys are in it with Dr. Phillips right now, she does a great job explaining all of this. I'm probably super redundant, but we're going to do it anyway. Math 105, statistics pops back up. Okay, and so that's a core requirement for our degree, as is 2 chemistry classes. And so this is where we start getting a little bit different between our industry track and our pre-vet track. If you're headed towards industry, we're going to recommend you take Chem 107 and 108. Okay, if you're headed towards vet school, we're going to start you early with either Chem 107, depending on how you feel about chemistry coming out of high school, or we're going to have you bounce straight to Chem 111. And then the second class will be Chem 112 that you'll take for that lower division piece. Okay, so, and this, again, we're just going to talk right now about the animal science major. We're going to bring up another form here in a little bit that is going to add a more complexity to this as we talk about the pre-vet requirements. All right, so you also need, in this lower division work, you need to take Animal Science 101 with Kate. Okay, yep. And you need to take Animal Science 230, which is animal feeds and nutrition. And then we need to have an ag business elective class, and you get your choice. You can either take ag business 101, which is that double count from the GE sheet because it also counts for area D1, or you could take ag business 261. So we more often than not advise our pre-vet students to take ag business 101 because it counts in 2 places. All right, and then if you are, the last piece of the electives for lower division is this last box here. And so if you are a pre-vet industry track, or sorry, no, that didn't make any sense. An animal science industry track, we're going to recommend you take Plant Science 101 or Plant Science 250, which is soils, plant science and soils. However, if you're a pre-vet track student, we're going to recommend you take Biology 151, which is molecular and cell biology. And so this is a requirement. This is one of the first requirements for vet school, is to have a molecular and cellular biology course. Some things to keep in mind. Biology 151 is a challenging course. It's 4 units. You're in lecture 3 hours a week plus a 3-hour lab. And the material is heavy. So if you struggle with heavy course loads, Biology 151 is probably one to make sure that you take when you are not taking things like statistics if you struggle with math or chemistry, okay? So just be aware of that. And then the last piece of this is 2 additional electives. And for you guys that are pre-vet track, we can count physics 202A and B. I don't like to though. And we'll get to that when we talk about the pre-vet requirements here in just a little bit. But other classes that you're going to need for vet school are Biology 152 and 153 in most programs. And you're definitely going to need Chem 270. So in the past, we've also used physics here, but physics is one of those classes that doesn't really fit into our major, and you really only need it for a vet school requirement. So we actually advise students to take it at a junior college where it's going to be cheaper and there may be a better teacher. Okay, so physics teachers at Chico State, God bless their soul, they are not great teachers. Okay, so teachers at junior colleges tend to be better because that's what they do. They teach most of the time. They aren't doing a ton of research. All right, so that kind of covers lower division stuff. When you get into your upper division core curriculum for animal science, you've got a series of classes that are absolute requirements. Okay, so agriculture genetics. You can also take Biology 360 for this genetics requirement. We can count it on the animal science side, and there's some vet schools out there that prefer you to have the biology genetics class rather than our agricultural genetics. There's very few schools out there that that's an issue for, but you also want to make sure that you are being responsible for your education. And if you are planning on trying to go to a specific vet school, you need to be in contact with their administration office about what classes will count and what classes won't. So just to give you guys an idea, like Kate and I but we both have about 70 advisees. About 50 of those are pre-vet students, and there are roughly 15 vet programs that we send students to. There's no way that we can know all of the combinations for all of those programs. So it's going to fall back on you to make sure that you're doing the due diligence and contacting those vet schools about their individual requirements. Our requirements on the vet school side have really come from our relationship with UC Davis. So we believe UC Davis is the hardest school to get into, so we have the hardest requirements associated with that. All right, so genetics is one of those, that first requirement that you need. You're also going to need Agriculture 482, which is a double count back to the GE pathway. You're going to need Agri 490, which is a writing intensive class. So you don't have to worry about trying to get extra writing intensive classes because we have 2 in the College of Ag. And guess what? They're required anyway. So we're actually starting to tighten up our required classes quite a bit by making them more diverse. You're also going to need to take animal nutrition, reproductive physiology, animal health and disease, anatomy and physiology, and then an ecology requirement. And so the ecology requirement is interesting. For our pre-vet students, we usually recommend taking Agri 331, which is just a regular agroecology class. The part that has changed here that our forms are not updated for is that the Plant Science 330 Rangeland Management class no longer exists. That class has been changed to Animal Science 394. And so that is a grazing ecology class. And so that one we substitute pretty often. We also will substitute Plant Science 363, which is forage crops, or Agri 432, which is holistic management taught by Dr. Cindy Daly. So you have more choices in this agriculture ecology requirement. But for the pre-vet students, we typically advise you into agriculture ecology unless you have a burning desire to go into like really large animal production. Okay, and then on the back side of this form, we have basically 2 areas of electives. And so this is the part that gets a little bit more complicated for our pre-vet majors. The first part is the animal science production classes. And so these can be 1 lower division class, so 100 or 200, and then 2 upper division classes. And upper division are 300 and 400. Okay, so with the upper division classes, usually those are there. We offer a bigger percentage of them in the spring than we do the fall. So those are just some things to be aware of as we move into planning your upper division coursework. But you need 3 classes total. 1 can be lower division, it doesn't have to be, but 2 must be upper division. And then the second set of electives is where, unfortunately, you guys that are pre-vet tracks don't get a lot of leeway here. So you don't necessarily get the chance to take ag business classes or other plant science classes if you're interested in it, because we are going to advise you to take classes that are going to count for vet school. So this is like Biology 371, which is a microbiology class. Again, you've got to check with your vet school. I actually don't advise many people into that class right now. But Biology 416 counts here, which is Vert Phys. Chem 370 counts here, which is an upper division chemistry class. And Biochemistry, or Chem 451, counts here as well. And so if you get those 3 to 4 classes, you have sufficed all of these requirements for the electives. Okay, so that is just a general rundown of the animal science major classes. Okay, and we'll go to the pre-vet side here in just a second. But does anybody have any questions about the major, the animal science major pathway or major form? Okay, you guys are really easy to please. So, all right, Kate, do you want to go bring up the pre-vet form?
Yes, ma'am. I have it ready for you. Okay.
Okay, so we are hoping if you guys are pre-vet track students that you got this check sheet during orientation, or at least in your Agro 180 class. If you don't have this sheet, let us know. We'll get you a copy of it. All right, so this is the third form that we actually have to bring together into a degree program for you guys that are wanting to go to vet school. And so this last form here is kind of the extra requirements to get into vet school. And so you'll see some things that are already repeated that we've already talked about. So the first set of requirements are things in lower division courses. So you don't necessarily need Chem 107, but again, if you aren't comfortable with chemistry after coming out of high school, we're going to recommend that you take it. Okay, you're also going to need Chem 111, 112, and then 270 as well, which is in level 2. But the take-home message here is with chemistry is that you need to start early and you need to not stop until you get done with chemistry. Okay, so here's the situation is that if you come in and take Chem 107, that you have to pass that to take Chem 111. Then you have to pass Chem 111 to take 112. You have to pass 112 to take 270. You have to pass 270 to take 370. And you have to pass 370 to take Chem 451. Yeah. So that's 6 classes. 6 classes, guys. So that's 6 semesters worth of work. And so we need you to start early, because what if you have a bad semester and you don't pass Chem 111? And you have to take it again.
Yes.
Okay, which is fine. It happens, right? Okay, but if you start early, then you still run the chance of finishing on time in your 4-year degree plan. If you wait on chemistry, that is what will actually lengthen out your career at Chico State. Okay, and so this is why you're going to hear us push to get you into these chemistry classes. And then once you're in them, just don't stop. Okay, just don't stop, because if you take a semester off because you want to give yourself a break, you're going to forget everything that you learned. Okay, so just keep going. And if you get through Chem 370 and you can go into Biochem 451 as a junior or as an early senior, and you don't have to take it with Vert Phys, you just made your last semester at Chico State a whole lot more tolerable. Because what we see more often than not is students having to take, Kate's going to highlight them here, Vert Phys and biochemistry at the same time. And that is hard. I'm gonna lay it out for you. It's hard, okay? So those are some things to just keep in mind. So with your chemistry, start early and start often. Okay, I'll get off my chemistry soapbox. So let's talk about physics real quick. So again, physics is that class that we really can't count very well in the animal science major forms. They really are 2 extra classes if you're doing the animal science major. So again, we suggest taking physics at a junior college, either over summer or in this online environment. You could absolutely take a full load of classes at Chico State. And if you're a really good, responsible student, you could probably find physics online at a JC at the same time. It's going to require some management, but it's definitely a way to get it done. Okay, we have advised our students to take physics at Butte College if we were in person before. And that seems to work out really good as well. But you can always get physics at a junior college. So more often than not, I recommend taking those classes as summer classes. Okay, that'll help get you through a little bit faster. And then can you roll back up? Let me just make one more comment about physics real quick. So you'll see on here that we've got a line item for physics 102. This is a 1 unit kind of background of physics. So very similar to Chem 107, but it's only 1 unit. It doesn't really count for anything. But if you feel like you need an introduction to physics, you didn't get to take it in high school or anything, you may consider taking that. I actually really don't advise students into it at all anymore. I push mine straight to 202. So you usually have it together enough to go right into 202A. All right, and then the last part of our level 1 stuff is the biology classes. So right now we need biology 151, 152, and 153. We are starting to see requirements shift a little bit among vet schools. So it now looks like that UC Davis is no longer requiring biology 152, but I think everybody else is. So if you don't know what vet school you want to go to, it might be a good idea just to get through all 3 biology classes.
It's also a prerequisite for Bio 371.
Yes, good call. Good call. And in my experience, biology 151 is really heavy and difficult. 152 and 153 are a lot more doable. So, but they're all 4 units apiece, so they're big lab classes. All right. Our level 2 is where we kind of step things up. So this gets to, the end of your sophomore year going into your junior and senior years. So you need chemistry 270, and you need it with the lab. And so you're going to take Chem 270 lecture and Chem 270 lab. And I'll be honest, guys, this is usually the class that makes or breaks a pre-vet student. And so we've worked with the chemistry department for a long, long time because they see quite a few animal science students come into that class and not do well, and they're very concerned. And so they've rotated instructors into that class that are really good teachers. So Dr. Nichols, Jin Song, they are all really good teachers. And so Chem 270 is a really heavy class because it's a step up on the chemistry ladder. And so you're going to take it after you take 112. After you pass Chem 270, you're then going to jump into Chem 370. And here you don't need to take the lab to get into UC Davis. You may need a lab for another program. I'm trying to remember. Maybe Iowa requires a lab. I can't remember off the top of my head. But again, check the pre-vet school admission requirements. And then sometimes schools will require biology 371. And so I don't think Davis actually requires that anymore. So, and then biology 416 and Chem 451, you're going to take probably as a senior. So Vert Phys is challenging. And it's all about physiological principles. So like things like how the kidney work, how the respiratory system work, how the muscle system works. So really intricate, heavy detail in there as well. And then biochem is biochem. It kind of brings back bad memories for me because I had to take it in grad school. It was horrible, but you can get through it. All right. And then just a couple other notes. We've already talked about the Agro 305 class. Again, you can take Biology 360. You just need to be in communication with your advisor about that. So with Kate or I, so we can do a proper substitution. But sometimes Biology 360 works better in a schedule than Agro 305. So it's totally fine to do that. And then we also recommend an internship in the vet field. And this is purely from the standpoint of building hours that is required to have experienced as you start to pull together your vet school application. So it can count as an elective, but the ANSC 389 class is not 100% required to get a degree in animal science. All right, so that internship can become really important as well. So just you can put that as an option. And then the third level of requirements for vet school is kind of the extra stuff outside of taking classes. So you need to take the GRE, and that usually happens the semester or the summer before you apply for vet school. Okay, and so there's some GRE prep classes out there. Chico State offers a few of them. I think you can even take one that's like a 1-unit prep or something like that. It's a standardized test. Again, it's just checking the boxes to get into vet school. When you start to pull together and decide that you want to apply for vet school, you're going to do that over a summer period. It takes a lot of time to get that application together. So we're going to recommend that you start in June if you are going to apply for vet school. And the deadlines usually for all the VEMCAS stuff is usually around October 1st. Okay, so if you start in June, you're going to contact people to write you good letters of recommendation. And hopefully you've been working for a veterinarian, you've been riding along with a veterinarian, you've been volunteering, and those people are going to write you really good letters of recommendation. I will tell you what is not super effective is if I'm your advisor and I've advised you all the way through your academic plan, but you've never done research with me, you've never done anything extra with me writing a letter is not very effective. Okay, so you want to make sure that you are obtaining letters from people that know you, that know that you can succeed, and that know your work ethic. Okay, so a lot of times that's going to come from veterinarians. That's what the vet school board is looking for. And then from professors that have done something extra with you, not just taken a class. And so that something extra can be things like internships or individual research experience, etc. There's lots of things out there, and we offer a lot of those opportunities at Chico State. As you submit your application, usually around November or December, you would start hearing from vet schools about if you got interviews or not. And so if you end up getting an interview, we will mama bear the heck out of you. So all you have to do is let us know, and we will set up times with several professors. We will run you through mock interviews, because if you made it that far, you have a hell of a good chance of getting into vet school. And we will make sure that you are prepared as you go in. You just have to let us know. All right. And then and once you get through the interview, that's kind of it. We've done our job. So some other things that that's going to be required in the vet school application process, in addition to the 3 letters and the GRE scores, is a really good personal statement. And so that you want to make sure that that's not something that you write and you alone edit. You need to send it to people, get input, change it around, make it as good as it can be. So I read through several personal statements every single year for folks that are going to vet school, because I'm a teacher and I love red pen and I love to edit everything out. And so we can help you make your personal statement good. But some things that you need to be thinking about is why you want to be a veterinarian. And you better have something more than I've loved animals all my life and I've always felt connected with them. They hear that every single time. But I'll give you an example. One thing that separated out a former student of mine that's now at Michigan State in vet school was she was a vet tech at Valley Oak in Chico when the campfire hit. And she pulled several back-to-back shifts caring for animals that were burned and injured. And she came out of that experience still wanting to be a veterinarian. And so she wrote about it. She didn't want to write about it. I forced her to. And that is, she was one of the top selected at Michigan State. And I very much think that it's because she showed her passion and she had something different. So you guys have to make yourselves different from everybody else that's trying to get into vet school. And there's different ways to do that. All right. So Kate's got some other statistics up here about vet school. So this is the part where I hope I don't crush your dreams. I just want to inform you. Okay. So at Chico State, we have approximately, 100 and almost 200 new students every year. Kate, is that right? 150 to 200 in animal science.
Yeah.
And at least 100 of those want to be a veterinarian. So the pre-vet track is very, very popular. The issue is that vet school, the pre-vet track program is the hardest major program on the Chico State campus. It's harder than nursing. Okay, and so congratulations, you've chose the hardest thing out there, which is great. We have full faith that you can do this. The hard part is that at the end of every year, every March, April, and May, we on average get 3 to, I think our best year was 5 or 6 students into vet school every year. Okay, so the attrition process from hopeful freshman students coming to Chico State want to be a veterinarian to actually getting into vet school is really quite high, like 60%. So it is our responsibility. We take this responsibility very, very seriously. We want you guys to be prepared to have a career, even if it isn't in vet or veterinary medicine. So we're going to talk to you about plan Bs. So what does backup careers look like? What else are you interested in? Okay. And sometimes that's outside of our major, and that's okay. That's absolutely okay. I have students that have started as pre-vet track students, and by the time they got to their sophomore year, they're like, man, science really isn't for me. I'm going to go to social science or social justice or something. And that's totally fine. So that's what the college experience is about. So if you're feeling the reason to change your major, please don't hesitate to talk to us about that. Kate and I are both certified coaches outside of academic advising. We do a lot of just kind of life coaching and stuff as well. And we can absolutely talk to you about those career decisions. So, so just keep that in mind, that we're going to ask you about plan Bs every time you come and talk to us about advising. Whew, that was a lot. I think I covered what I wanted to.
Okay, the only things I'm seeing us missing are what to have when you show up to an advising appointment.
Okay.
And resume and career fair.
Okay, and hours. I didn't cover hours very well.
And hours.
Okay, so let me talk to you guys a little bit about hours. So you saw on that pre-vet sheet that you really need like 1,000 hours of experience. Okay, and so we're gonna push you when you come into advising. And we're going to start having those conversations early. So first and foremost, you need to document hours. And you guys are super techie. We used to recommend people like get a notebook or a lab book or something like this and keep hours in it. That was weird. Okay. And guess what? Like I lose 2 to 3 of those a year, right? So put it online, put it in the cloud. So just get a Google sheet and have like a column for the date and a column for the activity, and just briefly put in what you did, and then have a third column for approximate time, so like hours. Here's the really, really great news is that your hands-on labs can count there. Okay, so if you spend 3 hours out with me at the beef unit doing breeding soundness exams on bulls, that's 3 hours of hands-on experience. Okay, now you can count it and you can take a record of it, but again, you are responsible for your own education, so you probably need to take the initiative to be involved in that 3 hours, right? So get dirty, palpate a bull, get manure all over your place, grab a hold of a set of testicles on a bull, right? Make this experience your own. Okay, and so, and there's a lot of other ways, but I just got done trick testing bulls, so that's what's on my mind. Sorry. Okay, so you want to make sure that you document your hours, and like a Google sheet or something simple on your phone or wherever else will make that process a whole lot easier. And the reason that you need to document hours, you don't have to submit like a time or a file to vet school. They aren't looking for that, but you need to be able to go back and reference in your personal statement what you have done. Right. So like I have handled bulls. I have, volunteered at vet offices. I have cleaned poop out of kennels. I have, helped, little animals live. Okay. Whatever it is. Okay. So those are, it's really for your memory. And so you have some sort of documentation about it. The biggest question we get is, how do I do that? Okay, so how do I get hours? So I'm just going to give you a couple of examples, okay? And we can brainstorm some other examples if you want. So feel free to chime in. First and foremost, the most popular option is to volunteer at a vet hospital. Okay, so that does a couple of things. First and foremost, it's going to get you out of in front of a computer right now, right? So you're going to be able to at least be in a different environment. Chances are you're not going to get to do a lot with the animals outside of walking them and cleaning their kennels. And that's a liability issue. So the vet clinic, the person that owns that clinic, has to have insurance on every person that is in that area. Okay. And so if somebody's dog bites you, then that automatically makes that owner liable. So which means that they're going to reduce the amount of time that you have with animals. But guess what? That's okay. Even if you can't be around animals and pet on them and love them, and you still can clean kennels and that type of stuff, A, it's all experience, and B, it's going to get you experience in the day-to-day life in a vet clinic. Because there's a lot of people that think that is what they want to do. And once they get in those situations, they cannot handle the day-to-day of what it looks like to be a veterinarian. Okay. And that's all good information to know, because as we start talking about plan Bs and everything else, we can start, advising different career paths and stuff that way. All right, so that's the most popular one, is volunteer in a vet office. You can volunteer in shelters. Every county has 1 to 2 shelters, okay, and they always need people to come volunteer and clean kennels and play with puppies and that type of thing. Adoption centers are the same way. There's also, if you guys are interested in going into large animal practice or a mixed animal practice eventually, there's lots and lots of farms around everywhere, and they all have animals and they can all use help. And so just think outside the box. Lots of farms, lots of ranches. And I mean, if you want to make a broke rancher really happy, call them up if you can find their numbers and say, hey, I'm wanting to get experience with animals and you don't have to pay me. What can I do? I will put you to work as a rancher. Okay. So, and then one of the things that is, Kate and I just talked about this earlier, because we're starting to see this be more popular, but we live in California where there's a lot of wildfires, right? And so volunteering at those evacuation centers for animals is a great way to get experience. You're going to see some traumatic stuff that's either going to turn you away from veterinary medicine or is going to drive you further to it. Okay. So, and they are always needing volunteers in those places. And nope, I'm not going to say that. Never mind. We're good. We're good. Okay. So wildfire evacuation centers you can add to your list as well. And there's probably a lot more ideas out there. If you are at Chico State, one of the things that we do quite often is, what used to be the Animal Science 110 class. We're no longer going to offer that. It's called, we've changed it up. It's called an apprenticeship class. So you can do an apprenticeship at one of the 5 animal units. So meat, slab, sheep, swine, beef, and dairy. And so you want to talk with the faculty advisor about that if you're interested in it. And that's actually, if you guys are in Chico, that class is one that's going to be able to meet in person in the spring. It's one of the few. And then
faculty advisors be?
Oh, faculty advisor. Sorry. So for the meat slab, it's Dr. Crystal Waters. For the sheep unit, it's Dr. Selena Phillips, the crazy one with all the colored hair. We love her.
Blue right now.
Yep. For the swine unit, it's Mr. Clay Carlson. For the beef unit, it's me. And for the dairy, it's Dr. Cindy Daly.
Yes.
Okay. And the dairy takes more students than any other unit but you have to like milking at 4:30 in the morning. Just putting that out there.
It's great.
It is great.
Character.
And if you like hugging cows, the dairy cows are the best ones to hug. I'm not going to recommend hugging a beef cow.
My favorite. It was my favorite as a student.
And if you do it in the spring, there's babies. Oh my gosh. Babies. Yeah.
My favorite.
I digress. Okay. So you can definitely do like the apprenticeship classes at the farm. As long as you get on a wait list and talk with a faculty advisor and make room for it in your schedule. We're also transitioning it from a 2-unit class to a 3-unit class, so it fits better in the DPR now. And then there's always the chance that you can, if you're interested in working at the university farm, that apprenticeship can transition into a job if you're the right fit for a unit. And if you put 20 hours a weekend at the dairy or at the beef unit, those hours add up real fast, and you might be able to get a paycheck to go with it. So university farm is a great place to work to gain knowledge and understanding as well, but it takes being a self-starter, being a team player, and it takes some really hard work and balancing classes and work both. So
there's also, Casey, in the fall, our animal nutrition class also offers a research lab, and those are also a great kind of way to get experience and get hours too.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just on that note, there's several of us in the College of Ag that have separate research programs. And I always have quite a few undergrads working for me on research projects. That's another way to get experience as well.
That's how Dr. Diatley sucked me in.
It's true.
And then I just stayed.
And then we haven't let her leave yet.
No.
All right. So how to move forward on getting this experience. Okay. You've got to get outside your comfort zone. So scour websites for jobs, even be careful, but you can find them, even like Craigslist type things or Facebook announcements, just kind of some of those odd jobs, but be careful. Okay. And then make phone calls to people. You've got to get used to talking to people. Okay. So I know you guys are a super texting society and you do it really, really well, but you definitely need to know how to make a phone call. So don't be afraid to stop by a vet office, probably not right now in the land of COVID, but when things get back to more normal, stop by a vet office, take your resume, introduce yourself, say you'd like to volunteer. If they have any positions open, your contact information is on the resume. That's all you have to do and leave. Okay. And then Yeah, scour job sites. Even sometimes Handshake on the Chico State portal has some ag-ish related jobs. Not often, but sometimes. So just keep those in mind as well.
Well, and even places too, like a PetSmart or a Petco, we've had students that have had really good success there because you're still getting, animal handling experience, sometimes exotic, sometimes adoption. So that's also been a great resource for students too.
Yep. And even like feed stores sometimes as well. So we have a lot of feed stores in the Chico area as well. So I mean, they all have baby chicks and those type of things. So anyway, a lot of those hours can probably count as well. So okay, so that was ours. Quick set of announcements for you guys. We've got two major things coming up in addition to registration. First and foremost, next Tuesday, October 13th, from 1 to 2 p.m., is a drop in resume career fair prep workshop that is going to be put on by the Student Success Office. And so hopefully you've seen that announcement in student announcements. Okay, and then the following week on Thursday, October 22nd, is the virtual career fair. And so even though veterinarians don't really show up at these career fairs, there's other animal science based companies that are looking for interns. And guess what? If you go intern for Foster Farms for a summer, you've got all of your hours there and you've dealt with poultry and so there's a lot of those type of things that are available through the internship fair.
We just had a student, Casey, that was interning with Superior this summer, and they just rolled her automatically into a job. Said they would wait till she was done graduating and she could intern until she was ready. So sometimes those jobs, you kind of work yourself into a position that you end up really, really loving. She was actually very surprised and is now working for them full time.
That's awesome. We've got thousands of success stories like that.
Yeah.
That's what makes us different than a Cal Poly or a Fresno State, is because we're smaller and we take advising and career coaching very seriously here, to the point that other colleges like Cal Poly, they go and see an advisor that they have specifically hired just to advise. We faculty do it here and we won't let it go. So, okay. Kate, did I cover everything? I think I.
What time is that virtual career fair?
Oh, 11 to 2 p.m. No, is that right? Nope. 11 to 3 p.m. on Thursday, October 22nd.
Awesome.
Sweet. Okay. I think that is
to an advising appointment with.
I'm sorry.
What to up to an advising appointment with? There's 3.
Okay, so if you guys, for future reference, or today, if you're not prepared, what you should come to an advising appointment with is a projected schedule for the semester that you're getting ready to register for, and being prepared to talk about Plan B careers. All right. And what am I missing, Kate?
Nope, that was it. DPR?
Yeah. Plan B and proposed schedule.
Yep.
So, and I know that the Agro 180 classes are doing a great job getting you guys ready for this process. I've just found that you cannot overemphasize or overgive this message when it comes to advising. So that's why we did this tonight, and we're recording it, and we'll kick it out to all of our advisees as well. So, okay, what questions do you guys have?
I have a question about the hours. So
Yeah.
if we volunteer at like a animal hospital and we just do that, that would count for like all the hours as long as we document it?
Yeah. So if like you spent a few years there volunteering, is that what you're talking about?
Well, yeah, I'm saying if like we like volunteered there for a while, if it will count already.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
no matter like the length or anything.
Yep. Because that That's very similar to like kids that grow up on farms and ranches being around animals their whole life. Like getting the 1,000 hours really isn't a big issue. What vet schools do like to see is diversity though. So I would try to branch out a little bit. And instead of just volunteering at a shelter or a vet office, try to do a ride along with a veterinarian. Okay, or try to do something different. So they really like diversity in those hours, so you're getting lots of experience with lots of different species. Cool, great question, thanks for asking. Anybody else have one? Okay, well, Kate, I think that we can stop recording, and then if we want to go to